Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand TV. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal brand and business development company. I want to take you on a journey through another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal stories, business conversations, and tips to improve your brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand TV series, you will differentiate yourself from the competition and build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build confidence, and reflect who you are. Building your 5-star personal brand is a great way to improve your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or any of my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh@5starbdm.com. Now, let's begin with our next episode on the Follow the Brand TV.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining another session of Hablemos. I'm Carolina Viera, I'm your host, and today I have the honor, the pleasure of hosting Mr. Grant McGaugh. He is the president of healthcare services for Volico Data Centers, and he has had a long day, but he made some time for us. He's been having a long week, and no, we're so happy to have you, Grant. How are you today?
Man, I am wonderful. I'm psyched. I am pumped. I could not wait to do this session with you. You are doing a fantastic job. You bring out a lot of good information for the community, and I want to be able to share.
No, I love what you have to share. I know that you are very involved in various areas, AI, metaverse, healthcare. So we're interconnected because of that. We're connected because of all those areas. So why don't we go ahead and talk a little bit about you? Share your story with us, Grant.
My story, it started, people don't realize, a lot of people that don't know me that super well don't realize where I'm from. Because I've been in Miami since 1998. My dad has been here since 1980, 81 or something like that. So I should come down and visit, before Andrew, the hurricane and all like that, which changed a lot of things. So my vision growing up of Miami was different as I watched it grow up when I came down here in 98 and South Beach was all built out. And I'm like, wow, that's different because, back at that time, you go down to South Beach, it looked like something out of the movie Scarface, if anybody remembers that. You go down, there's a lot of older people, there's a lot of other people that you might not want to associate with. It was not really the place to go, but it changed. And it's totally redone, and it looks beautiful. Love South Beach. But I am originally from Omaha, Nebraska. Yes, the Midwest. I was born there. I went to school there. I went to tech school at DeVry Institute of Technology in Kansas City, home of the Kansas City Chiefs that just won the Super Bowl championship. So that's where I went to school. And then I ended up going back to Omaha after school, got involved really in sales and got involved with the Marriott Corporation. We had a worldwide reservation center in Omaha, Nebraska, and I ended up meeting my wife there. And then we ended up moving, got transferred out to Tewksbury, Massachusetts, in New England, of all places. And that's where I lived during the 90s. And I was out there living a totally different lifestyle than what we're seeing, because it's just a different world in New England. And then, unfortunately, I went through some changes in my marriage, but I moved to Miami. I either go back to Omaha or I could move to Miami. I chose Miami. I thought Miami was a great spot to choose to be and to enjoy and to really get immersed in culture. The culture here is so dynamic. There's so many different blends for so many different people. I love the Caribbean people. I'm all about that. So I've been here for now it's 20, 25 years or something like that. And I've accumulated a wealth of experiences during that time.
No, I can only imagine. There's two bones that I have to pick. Well, one that I have to pick with you here, though. Kansas City?
Yeah, yeah,
The Chiefs? No, no, no. I'm
yeah.
a Buffalo Bills fan through and through, so we have serious problems there. I think I should reconsider the whole conversation. Uh,
Oh wait, no, first of all,
Congratulations on the
we're,
win.
we're in dolphin country, so you cannot, be a bandwagon on the Bills. This is
I'm
dolphin.
so sorry. It is what it is. I went to school in Buffalo, New York, so you can only imagine. Either
Yeah.
you're a Buffalo fan, you're a Bills fan, or you're a Bills fan. That's it. There's no real option there. And then Omaha, Nebraska. That's an interesting place. Did you learn something about Warren Buffett? Was he like? I know he's major there. So did you ever get to see him? That's an interesting
Yeah.
place to be.
Oh, Warren Buffett is a very down to earth person. Anybody in Omaha would probably has seen him. He doesn't live in some, he lives in a nice home, but not
Yeah.
far away from all the other, people. He likes to hang out in downtown Omaha, Midtown, and that type of thing. My cousin worked directly for him at
Oh
Berkshire.
wow.
So he got a lot of information from finance, investment banking, and things of that nature. So he's a well-known figure, but like I said, he's not. He's very approachable. That's what I would say about him and his family. They were very, very approachable and good people.
Amazing, amazing. No, that's an interesting place to be in, but obviously not as interesting as Miami, as South Beach, as Florida. I think there's a little bit of a difference there, but I appreciate your comment about the culture and the multitude of cultures and the food and the music. And so, do you use that? Do you think that's part of who you are today? That interaction with the different cultures that has play a role in the person that you are today?
Oh, without question. I talk to people all the time about the culture of Miami, especially as we get into DE&I conversation, diversity, equity, inclusion. I live in a world of DEI. This is it. I love it here because I tell people all the time, like let's say in Omaha, you go to Omaha, you see certain people, you can just look at them, kind of tell, like, all right, I know this person is a white American. I could tell this person is a Mexican American. I could tell that this person's an African American. In South Florida doesn't work like that. So you can
Right.
look at a person and you might not know who that person is as far as where they're from. They could be Haitian, they could be Bahamian, they could be Cuban, they could be, from Africa, they could be Nigerian, they could be a lot of different things. So you can't really judge people just by on appearance alone. And just like you see someone say, "Oh yeah, that person's Hispanic," they speak. You said, "Yeah, but they're from. There's so many cultures. What are you talking? I mean, the South America, the Central America. There's so much. So you really gotta allow a person. This is what I've learned. You allow a person to define themselves, and then you allow yourself to define yourself, and then you have a conversation.
And I guess that helps you to also have that worldview, even though you're still in Florida and being exposed to so many cultures. It really allows you to see things from a different angle and a different perspective.
Yeah.
Um, Let me ask you something though, Grant. What's your why? I know that you've been part of different industries per se. One of them, healthcare. What was your motivation to be part of healthcare? One, but also how does that translate into your why? What's your why? Why do you do the things that you do on a daily basis? Why do you lead the way that you do?
Man, that's a great question, and I love to tell you this story. The reason I said I moved to Miami because my father lived here. He moved here in
Mhm.
1980, so I moved down in 1998, and my grandmother had moved down in 1992. She was retired, so my grandmother and my father only lived probably a mile away from me, or so. I was a single dad. I was actually raising my children, and I needed somewhere close for them to go after school and be part of the family. And I like the fact that they would grow up and know who their grandfather was, who their great grandmother was, and that type of thing. So
Mm.
that was wonderful. And I got involved in information technology when I first came down here, with a lot of telecommunications and voice over IP and that type of thing. And that kind of guided me for a long period of time just in the IT space. and working with in South Florida across a lot of different verticals. I've probably sold systems to a lot of different locations that you've heard of or you've been in. If you ever been to the Diplomat Hotel in
Mm.
Hollywood, Hollandale, I actually I sold the telephone system for that property, right? And then at the Fontainebleau Hotel, I actually did the upgrades for that, or the Eden Rock Hotel. So I've done a lot of things here from a technology standpoint in the South Florida area. But in 2015, 2016, I was asked to go into more of a healthcare role and be that as a vertical. And the reason why I took the job is because in 2010, my father had a healthcare episode. He actually was working at the airport in transit, right? He was one of the transit officers, and he broke his leg. That's a normal thing.
Oh,
Broke his leg, and I had to take him over to an emergency and that type of thing. They wrapped it up, and then a couple of days later, they said, "Well, okay, we got to determine whether you've got workman's comp or your regular insurance is going to help you with this broken leg." So I take him to the hospital, yeah, to have splints put in, and they say, "Hey, we haven't determined your insurance. You're going to have to go back home." So he goes back home and he sits there. Now it's almost been a week, right? He says, "You know what? Why don't you just use my regular insurance? Let's not get into
right.
this comp thing, right?" So then I take him back to the hospital to actually have this procedure to put these splints in. They do the procedure, and then they were just going to keep him that day, but they ended up keeping him overnight. I talked to him that morning. He was fine. He said, "All right, come on out and pick him up." When the next morning after I spoke to him, they called me back and said, "Hey, you need to get here right away. Your father's going into cardiac arrest." I'm like,
Oh, wow.
what is going on? What do you mean cardiac arrest? I just talked to him. Like, you need to come out here. So I get out there. Come to find out, my father ended up with a blood clot that had
Mm.
developed in his leg, and now they call it a thrombosis or something like that, and
Yeah.
it shut down his breathing system, and he passed away. And
Oh, I'm so sorry, Grant.
oh, it was terrible. And I had to explain it to my grandmother who was still living. This is what happened. So I was like, wow, I never want that to happen to anyone else. If I can do anything in the healthcare realm to do whatever it might be, whether to help with the payer side, the provider side, the patient side, just have more awareness around the clinical world and the healthcare realm of itself. So I got involved in that in 2016. And it's been a whirlwind. I got involved with that. I got involved with a lot of associations, with the HIMSS Association, which is the health IT arm. There are about 100,000 different um, members. I am the program chair for HIMSS here, with about another 2,000 members. I'm also led an organization called the National Association of Health Services Executives here in Florida. I became the president, and that got my a lot of my enthusiasm, a lot of my passion, because I got involved in the healthcare system. I see where it works and where it doesn't, and then where they need from a gap perspective of where health IT can help. So that's my story in a nutshell as my why. Why do I do what I do? And it's carried me this far.
No, it's a strong why, especially there's so many elements of that conversation that I would like to highlight, but you also reminded me of why we are in the healthcare field. Even though in my case, I'm not uh, with patients on a daily basis at all, but it's in part because we want people to have access to it, a fair access, good access, to have advocates, health advocates around them. You are the perfect example. You were advocating for your dad's health, and supporting him and helping them, and helping him. But that's not what everybody has. That's not everybody has the ability to have their family, or a friend, or somebody, or a partner who's able to advocate for them and to take care of them and to say, hey, listen, something's wrong here. It's unfortunate what happened, and I understand how that really touched you. And I appreciate the work that you're doing around improving healthcare in the systems that we use, because it's needed. There's a lot of work that we continue doing to make that healthcare the healthcare services even better, right? And based on qualitative work rather than numbers, or hey, you need to be out of here because it's day 3, right? So thank you for raising that awareness. That's very important. So currently you are with Volica data centers. What
Correct.
do you currently do, and how does that information technology plays a role in the type of work that you're doing?
That's a good question. Valico Data Centers is a private cloud provider. And what does that mean? That means that you don't have to be in the public cloud for your compute and storage, all the different technology that you need to power all the devices that we have, right?
Mm,
We connect with all the public cloud providers, but we have a private data center in Deerfield Beach where we provide co-location. So if you have your own servers, your own storage, you want to put them in a rack or cage, you can do that. And then you have access to that equipment. You can also utilize what we call infrastructure as a service, in which we actually have the equipment. You load your application onto it and utilize it just like you would in public cloud, but you have, again, you have access to it. You have the security of knowing exactly where your data is, and then how you can then utilize it for the different applications that you have. Whether you still have equipment on-prem, or you have it in a co-location center, or you're utilizing infrastructure as a service, or you have public cloud, all of those things we can help you with through Valico Data Centers. There are IT managed services as well. So you're going to get the physical security layer. Now, we are a tier 4 data center, so we can withstand a hurricane or a 5 if that's what's going to come through. So, the category 5 hurricane comes through, like, wow, that's going to be a problem, but it knocks out a lot of power. It can do a lot of damage. Our facility is built to withstand that type of force.
And now, Grant, I mean, climate change is something that it's happening everywhere, and we can see it, right? It's impacting not only the way that we live, but the way that we work, where the places that we work, the services that we're providing, how we view things, our industries, global economies. Um, is that something that you also take into account and into consideration when you're developing and doing work for other companies, other organizations?
Oh, yeah, you have to be green. There's a lot of regulations in the data center engineering space. How are you utilizing the electricity, the power consumption? How are you utilizing the air conditioning that's needed? How does that delivered? Is it delivered in a green, efficient manner? And you start looking at all those things, and that's where it's about efficiency of scale. What happens is a lot of other businesses, they're maintaining possibly an on-premise data center, but it's not regulated. It's not
Mm,
up to code. It doesn't have all the compliance that are necessary from a regulation standpoint. You're familiar with HIPAA and high tech, and how you're protecting your data just from a standpoint. But getting back to what you're talking about from a green perspective, very, very important to have duly redundant generators that are inspected and that it works in the environment, in the ecosystem. So it's not running around, you're not killing trees, you're not doing anything to the wildlife, and you're not creating waste.
right.
That's another thing. So a lot of these things, when you're utilizing equipment, and then you're about to, during the life cycle, you're about to get rid of that equipment. Who disposes of that? Is it disposed of properly? There's a process to disposing of mission critical data equipment. And if it's not done properly, you get into the areas that you're talking about. Hey, are we polluting? What does it do to the atmosphere? Are we having, what's the emissions that are taking place? All of those things are taken into consideration at Balico Data Center.
From a sustainability standpoint, I love to hear you say that you take that into account, that your teams are taking that into account, because that also uh, makes the whole business strategy and business model that you have even more efficient, right? And more beneficial to the whole community, because now you're not only thinking about how to dispose the fastest way to dispose of equipment, but the most efficient way. How is it going to cause less harm, right? And like you mentioned, you said it perfectly, try to avoid waste, reuse things, recycle, upcycle, so many things. And I really, really, really enjoy it, and I'm in love with the conversation because you touch on so many great topics. Now you're also somehow find time to be part of other conversations, being a keynote speaker, being a panelist, and participating in interviews. So you have busy and long days. You recently were part of Gatherverse. Um, and there's more conversations happening about metaverse, artificial intelligence. There's a lot of fear around those topics. From I gather that from the community. First of all, tell us more about what you're currently doing in all those different avenues, but also what's your expectation around AI? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it ugly? What? Tell us more, Grant.
Great question. Good question. We're going to go right where we were just talking about. First, in the data center. I sit in the data center. What is that? That is the seat of power in which all these different connectivity points come to and leave from. So we have our own fiber network, so I can connect anywhere in the world. This is communications. This is interaction and communication. And when you start with the definition of what the metaverse is, it starts really with those two things. It is a experience of interaction and communication. So I was just on a very, very good broadcast worldwide in which I was the moderator talking to technologists all across the globe that were designers, they are creators, they are interested observers, they are at many different levels of the ecosystem, they're in academia, they're educators, all of that, having this same discussion that chat GPT or AI is really starting to bring about. So first question is AI something that I should be, afraid of? Is it something I should embrace? I would say like this: artificial intelligence has been around you for a very, very, very long time in different evolutions, right? Everybody remembers voicemail. You probably still use voicemail. Well, voicemail, the voice that you hear, that speech that you hear is a machine. It's artificial intelligence. That's all it is. Anytime you hear any kind of bell, whistle, alarm, that's artificial intelligence, right? And you've been around it for a while. Now we've gotten used to going to Google. You go into Google Maps and it's like, hey Google, take me over to CareMax. And it'll talk to you. Okay, we're gonna go there, give you the information that's right there. So it's very convenient to use it because the information. There's two things that technology does very, very well. You want to take some notes. Two things. It is very, very good at communication,
Mm-hmm.
and is very, very good at collapsing the windows of time.
What do
That
you mean by that?
so you do things quicker, speed.
Ah, yeah. Technology has that ability, right? Everything faster, information coming at you at so fast that you don't even have time to read it and to digest it. Um, but now, from my perspective,
Mhm.
I don't know much about metaverse. I don't understand it. So, what is your recommendation for somebody like me? And maybe I'm thinking I'm never gonna need it. What would you say to somebody like me?
As I was saying earlier, number one, you're already utilizing the metaverse, whether you realize it or not. If you're
Hmm.
listening to this program, this broadcast, this is the metaverse, meaning it is a platform of interaction and communication. Now, there's different levels. So most people, when you think of metaverse, you're really thinking about virtual reality and immersed, I should say, immersed
Right.
reality
Reality.
on the goggles on. The reason why you do that because you're cutting off your physical senses and you're completely focused in that platform. And it's very, very the realism in it is very, very compelling. Very, very. You could fly in a metaverse. Wow. You can actually simulate flying. You could do car drive. You could do a lot of things you cannot do in the physical world.
So when we go to Universal, And you see, you're on those rides.
Hmm.
Say, for example, there's this movie with all the blue. I forgot the name of the movie. Avatar. There's a
Avatar.
ride. There's an Avatar ride where you are like, you reminded me of being so immersed into that reality. It feels like you are flying. It feels like you are that character. Is that the assumption? It's sort of like that. The metaverse. It's
That's
that.
sort of like that. It's exactly like that. This is what you just said. If you remember Avatar, even the original Avatar, when the person was disabled, we talked about
Mm-hmm.
this person is disabled. He's a disabled vet in the Marines, and they have the ability to transport him into an avatar of a fake body so that he can then interact with the natives there on that particular moon. Very like, wow, that's incredible tech. Well, that's exactly what's happening.
Right.
You are being transported to an avatar body of yourself that you can create and make it look like the way you can make it look like you do in the physical world, or you can make it look like something completely different. That's completely up to you. But here's the deal: you're not just interacting in a field that no one else is a real person. You're interacting with other real people
Right.
in an avatar body. That is the difference in the metaverse.
And that's the idea, that because it's real, you could sign documents, you can exercise agreements, you can create businesses, you can implement the businesses all in that uh, virtual community, but still with the ability of, hey, this is real. So whatever you sign, whatever you say, whatever, just like in the real world, right? It's a real virtual world. But
It's exactly like you just we haven't got to the point where it's that um immersed and real. Meaning you can't really live there and conduct business there like 24 hours. You probably could not do that with like goggles on. In the future, five
who
years from
knows?
now, 10 years from now, it could be very, very good. The whole point is, you know how much money it costs to travel to Hong Kong?
Hmm.
It costs you a lot. But if you could travel there in extreme realism and be on the street, not only just like a simulation of Hong Kong, but actually be in Hong Kong because they have cameras there and they have microphones there. You're actually there.
Wow. I can only imagine it, and it's crazy to me. It sounds it sounds crazy. But yeah, it's possible based on the progression and how we've seen things evolve. It's no longer something that we say, oh no, that would never happen. It's not like Netflix and blockbuster type of story. No, 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 that's never gonna fly. Well, it did. So I'm pretty sure that it will happen, or and if it's not being developed right now, which I'm sure it's not. It is being developed, so it will be interesting to see. But more than my question, also another question that I have for you, Grant, will be for those people who are fearful of implementing or learning more about AI or metaverse and how it applies to their jobs or to what they currently do. And maybe they're thinking, oh, AI, it's going to take away my job and my livelihood. First of all, what would you say, and especially after this conversation where we now understand, we've been using AI for
Mhm.
the longest time without even realizing or calling it AI. We just call it Google or call it, Facebook or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But what would you say to those fearful of using AI to their advantage?
Great question. It just like in the world of Uber, right? The world of Airbnb, right? And these types of technologies changed. If you own a taxi, it's probably going to be tough for you, right? Because of Uber and Lyft and others, because they use technology to then enable a everyday car, whoever has a car, to be part of their taxi force. That was incredible. Or if you own a home or an
Mm,
apartment, every now I've turned that into a hotel. I don't own any hotels. So technology of itself can be a disruptor. It really depends on the job that you have. What are you doing? If you're only, and we are in the information age, what kind of information and knowledge are you conveying for your career or your business? What does that look like? Can someone easily get that information? But I would honestly say, if that's the case, people can already get that kind of content. You can go to Google and get basic information. You can learn a lot by just going to YouTube, right? Because all the information is there. All Chat GPT or AI is doing is pulling all that information together, again, giving it to you very fast. That's all. The information that it has comes from people. It's your information. It's your data. It's just now being collected in a way that it can come to you very, very fast. Same thing with Google. You go to Google, you can type in
Yeah.
anything, you'll get information. So yeah, it's going to be disruptive. If you were selling encyclopedias, yeah,
Guess what?
that could be a problem.
Yeah, that could be a problem. It is about understanding what value you bring to your company, your organization, your business, if you're an entrepreneur, and using technology to make your service, your product better, right? But the only way that we are going to lose that fear of these new things coming at us is by learning about them, by getting involved, by getting the information, right?
Well, you have to use it. And just like when I remember when I went to school, when the calculators came out, they were like, oh no, you cannot use a calculator in math class. That's cheating. There's no way. You got to sit there, use a slide rule, and figure this out. Why?
What do we use? I know that was, oh my God. My mom will tell me stories about, oh, I had to write down everything and understand it, and we cannot use just the pen and paper. And I would never understand, okay, but why? We can use, or why can I use Excel to make calculations when I was in high school? And it just didn't add up.
And that's fear, because the fear of change.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to keep it there. And this is, he said, well, you'll learn it better. But like, you know what, here I am. I've been out of high school a long time. I guarantee you, I'm not sitting there doing long division. I am using the calculator.
I'm sure that when you're signing contracts and agreements with all those other organizations, you're using that calculator. You're pulling it out. No, I'm just kidding.
And not even that, right? Because now I can speak to my Alexa, right? And go like, hey, what's 9 times 8?
Right.
I better not say that. It'll probably start talking. But that's how it is. It's a tool. Think of it as just a tool, not a replacement. It's not a sentient being. All right. It just has a lot of information. It's very, very good at analytical. Anything analytical, a machine can do. Anything that's repetitive and predictable, a machine can do. So if you start getting into rudimentary things that you're doing on a daily basis, or even in a business, or what you might be doing at a career or school, those are the things that you have to look at, like, wow, can I automate that? Because our workforce is changing. We have a lot of older people now, and we have a lot of we don't have as many young people, I would say. We have more older people. It's never happened, I don't think, in history of man. We have more older people now than younger people. So we don't have enough stronger people to do the work. So
Right.
how are we going to do the work? Well, the only way you're going to be able to do the work is you're going to have to automate some process. Think about this. Good analogy someone told me that it made so much sense. Think about an airport. You go to the airport, right? You drive up to the airport, you're going to get out. If you are in a wheelchair, or you're disabled, or you're just very difficult for you to get around, right now you might see 2 or 3 maybe, wheelchairs that pull up to the curb to put yourself or your loved one in, and then have to cart you all the way through to the airport, a long, long way, with the tram systems and everything else, to finally get you to your gate, and then have to get you into the plane, then get you out of the wheelchair and into your seat, and do it all over again to get you out of the airport. There's like, well, yeah, how many people do that? Well, flip the switch. Instead of just, you're going to see 97 people in wheelchairs and 3 people walking around pretty soon.
Right. Well, by then we'll have, all that virtual reality. They will be like, no, no, I'm not flying. I'm just using my goggles. No. there's so there's so many changes happening, right? But you're correct. You're correct. We have an aging population. Well, how are we using technology to be ready for those changes, right? And all of us, we're all aging. We're all going in the same direction. How are we using technology to better our lives, to make us healthier, to make us more active, make us more productive? Because we need to become more and more productive if we don't have other people to replace us, right, and do the work.
I wanted to bring one other thing up as we talk about the aging. Remember, there's a lot of people out here now, unfortunately, they're suffering from Alzheimer or Alzheimer type, dementia. Did you know that when you put them into a metaverse world, they come alive?
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
VR reality, they relax, they begin to interact, they begin to have sometimes jog some memories
Mm,
about certain things, and they actually have an engaging experience. So start thinking about use cases of how this can be helpful, even in we call micro learning, where it might take you a long time. Like some people, they don't do well reading a book. Sometimes they do much, much better if the book is audible,
mm-hmm.
or they can do much, much better if it's audio and visual. If you can then take that technology and deliver it through audio and visual, sometimes the child that you have, you say, oh, he has HDD or this and that and other. You know what? Maybe the learning style, if you change that in a certain way, this will be a better experience for them to move forward. And you'd be surprised at the results.
Beautiful. And it is about improving the experience overall. So
Exactly.
that's great. That's great. Grant, um, in your case, and from where you stand with, when you're working in so many different areas, not only in have access to, or more information around healthcare, but information technology, technology in general, all the different advancements that we see, data. What is your message to the community overall? What if, and then you mentioned aging population, you mentioned so many, sustainability. I love this conversation because everything that you said, it's like, yes, yes, preach. But what is what is your message to our community, and to particularly to communities of color? um we and I know that the sentiment is the same, but we want our communities to progress, to advance, to grow. Um, so, what is your recommendation? What's your piece of advice, or a couple of advices out there? What can you
Oh,
tell
I
us?
love that question. Number one, get engaged. Do not be afraid of technology. Right now, we're at a point in technology. No matter who you're talking about, all the big tech companies, the thing that they need is data. And if they don't have the right data or enough data, that's how you get bad technology or bad technology outcomes. If you have a whole subset of people that are not engaging with the technological platforms, then that information is not there. So the more that you can engage and tell your story, tell what's unique about you. So then it becomes a part of the overall experience for everyone that is engaging with the platform. This new wave, or what we call a technological leap, is going to make you more creative. And we want to know what your creative juices look like, what you're able to do. Before, you say 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you needed a to have a user experience, you needed to hire a whole team of people to be able to build you a code, be able to create for you an entire ecosystem that will cost you a gazillion dollars. Now you don't need none of that. Just like now we're on a television platform called StreamYard. It's very simple, easy to use. The tech is becoming very simple and easy to use at its we call application layer. What's missing is your creative input. What makes you tick? What makes you special? What's your story? What would you like to see? How do you see that? Because the machine, it can only replicate what it's been given. And if it doesn't have that information, that story is lost. We do not want to lose your story. Right now, if you look at AI and what it looks like now, not even just AI, just our platforms and Google and search, it doesn't have all the information, so it's very biased. It only gives one set, and I hate to say it, but I'll say it just like this: mostly white male
Yeah,
Americans have
absolutely.
platforms. So we need other groups of people to get engaged and not doing it on purpose. It's just that's all the information and data they have available. So if we give it more information, we give it more data, and that give us our creative minds what we can do. I mean, man, think about all our communities and what we're good at.
No, and it's beautiful what you're saying, because yes, we haven't been able to be part of those conversations. We haven't provided our information. Now we're afraid of providing information because we think something's going to happen or somebody's going to steal it, or without realizing that if our input is not there, our results are not there. Like you mentioned, our stories are not there. We cannot get the type of services that we really need, or the healthcare that we really need, or the type of education, the model of education, the model of healthcare that our communities truly need. And no, thank you so much for that piece of advice. I'm hoping that people will will follow it, will understand that it's coming from a place of love, because we want to ensure that everyone has access to the same resources and to continue gaining access to the resources that we deserve. And only by speaking up, by being part of those discussions, of surveys, of you name it.
One thing I want to say, I want
Mhm.
people to really understand this, and we're going to talk about right now what's on the table, which is Chat GPT AI. It is not only giving you information; it wants to learn. And the only way
Mhm.
it can learn is that you give it, think about if our entire community, just to say South Florida, started talking about all our experiences that we care about and started flooding it into Chat GPT, that changes the entire mechanism of how this works. Do not be afraid of the technology. That's
And by you saying that you sharing the experience, or sharing the information that we have, it's by using the program. That's
using
what you're referring to.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're using it in the best way to tell your story, your version, because it's going to be different from anybody else. And then it starts to learn. Like today, this happened to me today, is that I had several different people on my panel. I could not pronounce their names just by looking at them. So I went to Google, I went to the name pronunciation link, and I said, "Oh, I'm just going to type in this. It'll speak it back to me, right?"
Right.
Guess what? It didn't know the name either. It's like, I don't
See?
know how to pronounce that because no one had given it any input. No one knew how that, or it
Yeah.
did not know how to pronounce it.
And nobody interacted with the application for the application to learn how to pronounce it. That's perfect example.
Right.
Yes, we need, this is part of how we make inclusion more effective, right? Sharing the content, the stories, the information. It's the only way that we're gonna be out there, and we're gonna be taken into account, and our information is going to be part of that. So
Absolutely.
no, thank you, Grant. You've are phenomenal. You've been phenomenal, but you knew that already. You are phenomenal. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for all the information. If people want to reach out to you, how do they go about that?
Best way is to send me an email. You can send it to G McGaugh, that's GMCGAUGH at Volico, VOLICO.com. Or you can also go to volico.com to learn more about data centers.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Grant. I hope that you had a good time, hopefully. But no, thank you for everything that you do. And I'm sure that we'll stay in touch. We'll see you around and a conference or something out there here in South Florida. But thank you for everything that you do. And thank you to those who tune in. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
Bye bye. tune in for our next show or click on our website at www.5starbdm/followthebrandtv. Thank you. Hey everyone, it's Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM and host of the award-winning Follow the Brand podcast and TV series, where I help you to build a 5-star brand that people will follow. My genius is personal brand development through intelligent communication and helping you achieve your business and career goals. I am a requested speaker on digital technology and brand development issues. I want to work with you to increase the value of your current opportunities while attracting new ones. Every one of you is unique, and we all share challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. As a super connector, I work with you as an executive coach to guide you along the complicated business and career development road, providing the enhancement tools and information you need to succeed. Together, I will help you succeed in today's challenging business climate. I will evaluate and measure your progress. Best of all, I am right alongside you every step of the way. Build the brand called you. Genius is coming.
5-Star BDM, Brand Development Masters, is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for the small to mid-sized business and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share business development challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement and operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our business and personal branding company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. This results in more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. Visit www.5starbdm.com today to learn more.
The 5-Star BDM LinkedIn Social Selling course can help you stand out and attract the right connections and opportunities. We will help you professionally create your profile, provide personalized recommendations for improvement, and help you create and share engaging content to help you showcase your skills and expertise. Our 5-step course makes connecting with industry experts, finding job opportunities, and building meaningful relationships easy. Social selling can be an effective way for you to generate leads and close deals, but it does have its challenges. Our course will help you solve the problems associated with digital networking. If you need help personalizing your outreach and messaging, which can lead to low response rates and a lack of engagement. If you need help targeting the right prospects, this course is for you. With so much noise on social media, it can be challenging to cut through the clutter and get your message in front of the right people. Our course will personalize your messaging using our targeting tools and research. You can identify and reach the right prospects. We will also show how to deliver high quality, valuable content that attracts and engages prospects and clients. The 5-Star BDM LinkedIn Social Selling course will address these challenges by implementing best practices. As a result, you can improve your social selling efforts and generate better results. Are you looking to improve your LinkedIn profile and reach a wider audience? Social selling is an effective way for you to generate leads and close deals, but it does have its challenges. Some common problems we saw with social selling include lack of visibility. If your profile is not optimized or you're not actively participating in groups or sharing content, it can be difficult to get noticed on LinkedIn. Number 2, lack of personalization. Some businesses struggle with personalizing their outreach and messaging, which can lead to low response rates and a lack of engagement. Also, difficulty targeting the right prospects. It can be difficult to identify and target the right prospects on social media, especially if you don't have access to robust targeting tools. And number 4, outdated content. If your LinkedIn profile or content is not up to date, it can give the impression that you're not actively engaged on the platform or that your skills and experience are not current. And lastly, poor quality content and not leveraging video and picture to convey ideas. To solve these problems, the 5-star BDM LinkedIn Optimization Social Selling Video course will help you focus on personalizing your outreach and messaging to better connect with prospects. In module number 1, the foundation, we will help you create high quality, valuable profile that will attract and engage. In module 2, the story, optimizing your LinkedIn profile to make sure it is complete, accurate, and visually appealing. In module number 3, the experience, using your targeting tools and research to identify and reach out to the right prospects. In module number 4, engagement, establishing a consistent follow-up process to nurture leads and build relationships over time. And lastly, in number 5, execution. Understand the metrics to help you measure your brand effectiveness. By addressing these challenges and implementing best practices, you will improve your social selling with the 5-star BDM LinkedIn Optimization Social Selling course. Listen to what others have said about 5-star BDM.
Grant, I'll tell you why I'm here, right? I'm here because I love your brand. When we started chatting on LinkedIn, we connected. I checked you out and I go, man, this guy knows what he's talking about.
You were definitely instrumental in helping to shape that knowledge of who I am. Because at first I thought, well, I am an actress. I am a writer. I am a producer. I am a speaker. And so I said, well, I must be a creative communicator. I know that there is a narrative thread here, but you nailed it when you said you are a storyteller. So you brought it all together in this cohesive title.
Sign up today to improve your social selling opportunities.
And so you have to build that skill set of how do you connect with people? How do you motivate people? How do you inspire people? How do you performance manage people so that you can get the results that your healthcare organization needs? And so when I think about my brand, I am truly a transformational leader. I've studied the tenets, I've studied the concepts, and they're concepts and tenets that actually come more naturally to me. I'm an extrovert, I'm a people person.
So I'm hearing a few things. So just from the engineering aspect, it just seems like second to none because it's created by engineers, and then the latency. So it's got the security engineered well, and then the speed is there.
Yeah.
So can you walk this concept of edge computing? Walk me through this concept.
Walk you through edge computing comes down to this. Like people, right now you're using major cloud computing platforms, right? Whether you're in AWS, whether you're in Google, you're in Azure. These are large data centers. No matter how they look at it, it's still a data center. These data centers operate simultaneously, but they all have certain workload speeds that they operate in. When you start to deploy, again, we call edge devices, meaning the intelligence is not all essentially located in the data center itself. It's out on the edge. Is where the decision-making point is located, because you cannot avoid what you call the physics of a situation, because distance equals time in a lot of instances. So you need to have a compute model that's closer to the source. That is where we come into play, especially in the South Florida market. So we can give you that location that you're going to need from a real-time support from a technology standpoint, that you're going to need to actually have your workloads work more efficient, especially you get into remote or robotic process automation, any kind of automation like that you get into autonomous vehicles that people are talking about. Hey, I want a car that's going to operate on its own. Well, that compute has to be very, very close to the actual workload. It can't be far away. You can't control exactly where your workload speeds are going to come from in a cloud compute model. So you're still going to need what we call co-location. And that's what we do, right? But that co-location also has to sit on its own private network from a connectivity standpoint. So when you start putting it together as a total solution, you're going to have the connectivity, you're going to have the data center load, whether it's your own equipment, which is co-location, or you want to use private IaaS or infrastructure as a service. You have that capability as well, but you still also have workloads that you can put into the cloud because it's a multi-cloud platform. So it doesn't mean you don't get away from the cloud. No, you have certain workloads that are there. The other thing that's very, very important is that you still want to have access to your compute models. If it's in a cloud model, you lose the control at the infrastructure layer. You don't control the infrastructure layer, you control the application layer, but the infrastructure is completely owned by the data center provider. In a co-location model like with Valco, you have choices. You can actually own your own infrastructure. You can actually utilize our IaaS platform, infrastructure as a service, but you can have access to it. So you can come to the data center, actually see what's going on, actually touch and feel and see how things are operating. And then you get your good SLA, service level agreement, because you're working with somebody from an engineering standpoint. Remember I talked about earlier, we're an engineering firm who understands your data. You're not talking to a third party. We can take a look at what you have all the way down to the kernel, for your workload, and help you from a managed service perspective. So it's not just, the co-location and a more or less, a housing of just the server and compute and connectivity. We're actually helping you as an extension of your IT team.